Hello there, welcome back to another week of shows. Well, today I'm going to start the week off with what in most weeks would be the sickest, most depraved film I could possibly cover. Normally, this would be the sickest, most depraved film I could cover in a week. This would be winners hands down. This is a film that's banned in many countries. It should be the sickest film of the week. Yet it's not. There's a film later on in the week, that will end the week, that's actually sicker and more depraved than this one. So that's what you've got to look forward to. Right, so I'm starting off with Salo. Salo is Pier Pasolini's final film, made not long before he was murdered in the streets of Italy. This is a highly controversial film. This is a film that caused a wave of sensation of how dare he do this film, how dare this film get produced, how dare this film be presented in a cinema, what is wrong with the world. Can someone please think of the children, maybe? Well, this film does think of the children in ways you don't want to think about. Okay, I have a little story to start with about when I first saw Salo. I saw Salo in the Glasgow Film Theatre in the mid-2000s. They were showing of Salo, so I went along with a friend. And we were both working in the same place at the time, and we saw one or two people from our work there. We didn't think they saw us, but it turned out they had. So we went to the film. We went and sat at the back and just started watching the film. And even though it's utterly depraved, there's lots of weird dialogue and weird expressions that we found hilarious. So we imagine us as if we watch a comedy, because we just found Salo to be funny as hell. Because there is a sense of humour to it. It's just usually most people are going and the oppression of what's going on dominates, so a lot of people don't find the humour in Salo. We did. We were laughing our heads off throughout Salo. And we just was, we were having a great time. I'm not sure anyone else was, but we were having a great time. So we saw the film, we left. Then at work, a few days later, I was talking to this girl who was one of the people who was at the cinema. And she was saying, "Oh, I saw you at Salo." I was like, "Yeah, what do you think?" "Oh, that was really weird. I don't want." And then she said, "God, did you hear those two weirdos at the back laughing their heads off the whole way through it? That was creepy." And I was like, "Yeah, it was. I heard them too." So obviously I didn't tell her that was me. So that was the start of my Salo experience. I've seen it since. I've got the Blu-ray, which has like the Blu-ray copy, DVD copy, a bunch of extras of the film. The Blu-ray is really well, the restoration is terrific. It's darkened up quite a bit, because in the film that I saw on the GFT, it was almost like it was blown out to be too bright. Everything felt a bit bright, and so we got to the gore and some of the other sequences. They looked a bit fake because they weren't colour coded properly, so it made it funnier. It made it less disturbing because the colour coding wasn't quite right. So when you see in the new I think it's BFI who did it. The Blu-ray is released in the UK. Colour coding's perfect. Everything looks right. The blood looks right. The other stuff looks right. So it's a bit more disturbing. It's not quite as funny as how I originally saw it. But the thing is, me and my friend, we watched like spaghetti westerns and all this other stuff, like kabuki films and all of that. So we were into the Italians having a sense of humour about gore. So it was, to us, it wasn't really a big deal. I think if we come in fresh to it, it's like, oh my god. So that's the two reactions to Salo. The sick fucks like me and the normal people. So the film itself is about It's set in Italy in 1944, not long before the collapse of Italy to the Allies, and then as we led up to the end of Germany. So it's pretty obvious to most people that Italy's going to fall. Like, they're attacking the Allies are attacking. They're determined they're going to beat the Italians. So it's almost like the people in power, they'll have the last vestige of power before they're obviously going to get killed by the Allies. So they decide to block off this house for a week, and they're going to give in to all their impulses, all the most base impulses, everything that they want to do, every bit of cruelty they want. And they're going to bring in like 9 male teenagers and 9 female teenagers. So they're all about 18-ish. And they're rounded up and brought to this house. And they have to these 4 men, let's give them names, what shall we, like Farage, Corbyn, Blair, Johnson. I'm joking. This could be Brexit, December 2019 for all we know. Anyway, they're just normal political leaders who think they're deeper than they really are. And they're going to indulge their depravities. And so they bring these young people to this house. And before it happens, one of the males try to escape, on the way there and he gets shot and killed. So that tells everyone else not to try that. And later on, one of the females dies in mysterious circumstances as well, with a throat cut. It's almost as if they're trying to even it out, so there's a same number of males, same number of females. And so these, slowly but surely, these teenagers are, so when I see, please think of the children. They're thinking of the children, they're thinking of the teenagers. These kids are still kids, they're not that mature, they're just starting their lives out basically, and these people are just going to torture them. So they start out with subtle tortures, and it slowly escalates throughout the film. So this is a 2-hour film, so it takes its time to get to the really nasty stuff, but it brings this atmosphere of you're a plaything for these people, and these people don't care about you. They really don't care about you. And there's a lot of cruelty. There's this madam who tells stories. She was a child prostitute. She tells stories about her first sexual experiences when she was 7. And some of these stories are so bad taste, they're hilarious. They're really, the woman is doing it in her 50s and she's dressed up as if she's younger, and it's really campy and really bad taste. Nowadays it would be like horrific to see for some sensitive souls. Even back then it was horrific to see. But that was the least of how it was coming. I've no idea how this film could be made nowadays. Then after she starts telling these stories that makes these 4 leaders aroused, which means they have to start to have sexual interest in these poor kids. And then it just escalates to, making 2 of them get married. A girl and a boy get married. And of course, and they have to observe the wedding night. These 4 men have to observe the wedding night. And then as soon as the two teenagers start to get aroused with each other, two of the men don't jump in and take over and start to molest both parties. So no one's going to get pleasure, no one's going to get anything from this. They're just going to get degradation and destruction and horrific events happening to them. Then we go further on as these men try and prove themselves to be the most depraved. They start dressing, cross-dressing as well, and as if to say, look how, they call themselves libertines. They're liberating everything. and they're using fascism as a way to explore their nastier sides and their more expressive sides. And of course this is a big metaphor for power, like how power corrupts and how power destroys people. So we get to one of the most infamous scenes in cinema, which is the point where they're making the kids eat shit basically, but they eat shit as well. The four guys and their various people around them, they all eat the shit as well. Everyone eats shit as if it's a delicacy, and people have to keep it in their stomachs for as long as possible to make it more putrid. And so that is, so again, in the GFT screening that looked a bit fake, but it was funny as hell. When you see it now with proper colour coding, it looks pretty disgusting. You have to turn away. It's pretty gross. And as this goes on, they keep on marking people down as people who have offended them, people who have not gone along with their plans, you know. And slowly but surely they get to the point of other kind of weddings and murder, and basically anybody who didn't go along with the plans gets murdered at the end. And this 5-minute sequence where these kids are tortured to death, they're scalped, they're marked and burned, they're hung, they're gang raped. It's just horrific. Just to prove these people, these libertines are, to fulfill their fantasy, their sadistic fantasies. All of this, it always happens, that's pretty much the end of the film. So it stops before the Allies arrive to take these guys out. And there's lots of other stuff. I mean, there's a point where someone gets caught in an indiscretion and they just start telling other people, and eventually it gets to this guard who's shagging a housemaid, a black housemaid, and he gets killed by them for being impure or something like that. A lot of the themes in the film have been examined before. Like they're saying the shitting scene is a suggestion of criticism of like fast food and factory-based food, and you're basically eating shit basically to survive, and you're for these masters to make money and stuff. So that's a very literal view of that. That's like that's pretty much a socialist view. That's like very left wing. There's the thing I find interesting in the film is these people who call themselves libertines and they're just fascists who have taken control of the country. They think they're really extreme and they're really interesting and they're boring as hell. They are the leaders who have they're just nobodies, they're just nothing. They're trying to push themselves to be extreme, to be interesting, but they're not interesting, they're just they're basically awful people, and that's it. There's nothing interesting about them. It's the way that any leader, which is hence why I included those names earlier on, any leader actually tends to be a kind of fairly facile, dull person who's trying to, who gets a lot of insecurities, makes them go for power, and they might not be the most well-read, the best well-rounded person. A lot of time they've got these weird thoughts and weird impulses that they have to control, and nothing gets developed in their personality, so they become constrained by the need for power. So they become these very traditional people, very upclassy. They stick to whatever the political fad is at the moment. They're not going to go far out of it. To get the power, they're going to slowly build and build and build and build. And they become these like tedious people. I mean, you have a look at any politician in any country, 95% of them are tedious as hell. They're just boring. It's like you would never want a conversation with any of them. They're just like the most tedious, horrible people imaginable. Then there's like 5% who are the real nuts who don't care, and they'll say what they think, and they usually get the power. And it's look at Trump or Boris Johnson or something. And before that in Britain we've had like tedious leader after tedious leader. All the leaders we've had, even Johnson's pretty tedious in his own way. But he's a bit more eccentric. I can't stand him, but he's genuinely more eccentric than most of them I've had before. All these people who are just blah. There's blah. And these people you see in this film are blah. They're desperate to show the libertines they can embrace anything. And the problem is, evil is boring. Evil pretty much is just animalistic acts. There's nothing to it. There's nothing romantic about it. In a lot of films, they try and romanticise it with words and with meaning within words, and suggest these actions mean something that's really important, when they're really psychopaths a lot of the time. A lot of characters in films are total psychos that the films romanticise and suggest you should find these people fascinating when they're not really that interesting. This film actually takes that idea and runs with it, where basically these fascists are basically trying to look interesting. So they've all these speechifying things of this woman telling all these stories that are basically based on sexual perversion, as if it's deep, and it's not deep. That's what's so funny about it. It's not deep at all. It's just the most basic stuff. It's something William Burroughs done in literature with like Naked Lunch and things, just showing the excesses of like your worst thoughts and how power moves through all of that. But it might not be that interesting. It might just be how they use language to enslave you, how they use images to enslave you. Basically, everything's a power control. And this is the end result of it. And Salo, the end result is they've got the power, they've done it, and there's nothing there to them. And they make these speeches, and they talk as if they know what they're doing, so they're libertines. Well, you might notice when you actually watch a lot of people who say they're liberals and say they're either progressive or classical liberals, and they say they've got real depth and knowledge by studying. A lot of time they come across as just boring, just blah, you know. The same way any like classical right wing person comes across as kind of blah, you know. Especially for me, they come across as really blah. But you know, it's like this thing of people try to justify what they are and the classical upbringing and their depth through what they say. This film takes a mickey out of that entirely by just showing them at the most animalistic base. They're just animals, they're just destroying people just for the sake of sadism. And they don't get that much enjoyment out of it. They're just looking at it as if to say, we're doing this to show we're deep. And it's really insecure and really depraved, but it's not that interesting. Which the point of the film is, it's not that interesting, it's just depravity for the sake of depravity. And they're killing people because they can. And you see the lower classes basically having to go along because these are people in power that don't want to get killed. So the soldiers who run the place for them are just working class stiffs who have to deal with these perverts. Just the same way you ever see people like the civil service having to deal with politicians and thinking, Jesus Christ, what do I have to deal with these people for? You know, that kind of thing. A lot of them are just normal people who don't want to be anyone near it. Some people get off in it, but a lot of people, and sometimes they do the salutes for them and stuff, and they're the ones that are empowering them as well, because they're not stepping up and saying, no, this is wrong. They just go along, but it shows you that most people just don't want to deal with these psychos. They'd rather just get on with their lives as much as possible. That's how fascism gets its claws into people. So people don't say no, and it goes on and on and on. And also you see the working class people who are brought in, their families have been terrorised so that these people have been pulled away from their families. And the families don't resist. A few do, but most of them don't. Because these people, even in the working classes, don't want to get killed. So if they have to sacrifice a child to avoid getting killed themselves, they do. It's a very cold look at society and how people can actually be sometimes. It's not saying everyone's like that, it's just the people who are in this mindset can be this way, and it's all about survival. The kids themselves, they sell each other out after they get caught doing something just to avoid the consequences. They go along with it. Very few of them actually rebel. They suffer through some of the worst excesses, like eating shit and having to eat something with nails in it, and walking around naked a lot of the time, being sexually molested, going around like dogs with leads she's on, all that stuff, they go along with it. And it's completely insane. And it's utterly animalistic and childish and horrible. They still go along with it. That's what they do, they just go along with this thing. And it's just a sad commentary on humanity. Like, there's no romance, there's no sentimentality, it's just like the power bases have gone mad, are desperate, and they reduced the entire civilization to barbarianism, which is fascism basically. If you look at like Stalinist Russia, or just any communist Russia, really, where the people in the top can do whatever they want to the people below. Anything, any depraved act they can do, because they can, they have the power. So any like fascist power has control of the people, and the people will fall into line if they want to survive. And they can do the most pretentious nonsense and justify it with their shallow brains, which is why fascism is not a good idea generally. Even in more normal civilizations, even if it's not fascist, a lot of time leadership can get away with absolutely dreadful stuff, absolutely mind-bogglingly stupid stuff, because they have power and they demand respect. And they demand respect even though they're doing utter depravity, and you're meant to go along with it. And this film just shows them as utterly below contempt. They're just below contempt. There's an interesting misogyny running through this and homophobia, because Pasolini was a gay director and he was actually examining it, where these men, they loved the boys club, they loved all these guards around them, and there was a general disdain for women. Like the female people under control get it worse than the males in a lot of cases, until the end basically. And there's a disdain, they like the women's bodies but they don't like the people behind the bodies, they don't like the women. And there's one of them who's obviously gay as hell, and he really just likes to get Roger basically. That's his thing. And there's this disdain from some of them who are doing a cross-dressing thing as if they're being like flamboyant or something. But it's obviously done as a kind of, it's a perversion of what a transgender person would go through, really. This is just them being almost mocking of Moors. They're not actually embracing anything, they're just doing it as a kind of snidiness. It's just another level of depravity that they're doing, that they've destroyed any acknowledgement of any basis for any act. Any like gay person, any straight person, any of their acts is getting depersonalised. As you're a bit of meat and we're going to use you for what we are. And we're going to deny our own instincts until we can, no one's watching them, we'll embrace them anyway. So this guy, so quite a few of them take male lovers. Like the only people who survive from the teenagers are a few males who they take as lovers, as a sign of their purity, which is of course a sign of them, they were a little boys club and they're saying we're above everything. When they're not really, it's just like, it's made by a gay director who's kind of intrigued by some of the homoerotic elements of like power and how it floats through. So he's trying to examine it rather than like if a straight director did this, it would be called homophobic. So a gay director did it, so he can examine it a bit more. So it's quite interesting, because he's pretty upfront how misogynistic and how like homophobic these people really are. So they're just hypocrites, and hypocrisy of powers used through sexuality, so that's how he uses this basically gay sex at the end to show the hypocrisy of these people. So there's a whole feeling of this film is that everything that may have a natural outpouring in real life is being used as a power base to empower these men, these dull men who think they have something of importance in their lives, and they're actually just these dullards who have destroyed our country. So it's got total contempt for them, but it's also got a sense of humour. But that's the way the world works, this is how life works. Human society seems to put the worst to the top at every opportunity, and that's just the way it is, that's just a tragedy. So that's Salo. I don't want to go any much further with Salo. I think it's a great film, but it's a very hard one to sit through. I mean, I've seen it 3 times, but that's over a decade. And after you've seen it, you don't want to watch it for another 3 or 4 years. It's like, it's very hard to sit through. Like, if I wasn't doing this video, I would not have sat through it again anytime soon. It's a very difficult film to sit through. But it's worth it. But, you know, be aware you're going to feel ill watching it. It is a very depraved film, but it is kind of funny in its own way as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. And just remember, this is not the most depraved film I'm covering this week. There's something worse coming. So I'll see you next time.